Hello everyone, X-Walk Hill Bethelite here. And I want to talk about activism. And this is always an interesting discussion because everyone has their own viewpoint. Everyone has their own opinion about Jehovah's Witness activism. Being an activist against the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I find it interesting because, in my opinion, part of being a ex-Jehovah's Witness is everyone is allowed to have their own opinion. It just doesn't override anyone else's opinion. So we can all share them, and it'd be interesting to see different viewpoints. Well, I'm going to bring up a few points, and I want to know what you guys think. So feel free to comment down below whatever your opinion is, and don't feel you're going to be attacked or anything like that. Not by me, at least. And my view is that there are certain lines that should not be crossed. And if they are crossed, whatever happens, it's that person's fault. For example, you don't get in between a person and their family. If you trap a person up against a wall and the only thing in between them and their family, saving their family, helping their family, is you, then you have placed yourself in a dangerous position. Let me repeat that again because I want to know what your opinion is on it. I'm okay with every form of activism a person can imagine, and I'm going to repeat the reason why. If a person or organization or cult places itself in a situation where they have your back up against the wall and the only thing standing between you and your family is that person, organization, or cult, then they put themselves in a bad position. We all know not to do that. We all know not to put someone's back up against the wall where they don't have no family. And the reason why is because of you. You're asking for something to happen. You're begging for it. We all know not to do it because none of us want to deal with those types of consequences. That person is then going to do whatever they see fit to then remove you from blocking their path to their family. That's part of the activism. The people, activists, individual activists, are doing whatever it is they see fit to remove this cult from standing in between them and their family. The cult didn't have to do that. The cult didn't have to put themselves in that dangerous situation. The cult could have just taught their doctrine and not told their family, hey, you choose between us and any relative or friend or acquaintance or associate that is not a member of Jehovah's Witnesses. That was a voluntary teaching. They didn't have to do that. They put themselves in a situation where they're asking for activism. They're asking for something to happen. Okay, that's their choice. They chose to do that. The person whose back is up against the wall, they don't have no family. The only thing standing in between them and their family is that cult. They're kind of put in a desperate situation, and you don't want to put people in desperate situations. You don't want to do that. You don't want anybody's back up against the wall, because whatever happens, then happens. You know what I mean? So we have to look at the circumstances under which activism is taking place. This is not just a religion, like let's say the Baptist church or Pentecostal church, or just a church that's just teaching what it teaches, and the person is just there learning from them. This is a religion that has aggressively put itself in between you and your family. You will not speak to your own family. You will not have the same opportunity that everyone else has to go to the movies with your family, to go to events with your family, to stop by and just hang out with your family and talk about whatever it is people who have families talk about. You will not have family anymore. That cult aggressively put itself in between this person and their family and said, you ain't got no family no more. That was the cult's choice. They chose to do that. So whatever then happens is their fault. Any type of activism that happens with regards to Jehovah's Witnesses are Jehovah's Witnesses' fault. They didn't have to do that. They could have taught whatever it is they wanted to teach. They could worship in whatever way they wanted to worship. But once they decided we're going to start taking people's families from them, whatever then happens is on them. Another thing is children. There are just certain rules that pretty much every person on the planet is aware that if they cross these rules, they're putting themselves in position for action to be taken against them. One of them is don't put nobody's back up against the wall, and don't stand in between nobody and their family. Don't try to take somebody's family from them. You're asking for it. Another thing is children. Everybody on the planet knows not to mess with kids. Everyone knows that. So if a person, we're talking pedophiles, decides they're going to actively try to pursue somebody's kids, however that person stops that pedophile from approaching kids to have sex with them is however they do it. Me personally, I don't pick and choose what type of activism against pedophiles I approve of. I approve of all of them. I approve of whatever you can humanly possibly think of. If there's pedophiles and they're trying to have sex with kids, and you can think of a way to prevent or stop or slow it down or expose it, do it. There is nothing that I'm going to say, well, I don't agree with that. There was a show years back. I think it was on Dateline, where Chris Hansen was the host of that show, and they would actively pursue pedophiles. And if that pedophile would send sexually messages to kids and go so far as to even show up at a location they thought that child was at to try to have sex with them or molest them or something to that effect, then Chris Hansen would bring out cameras and this person's face would be shown on national TV. Potentially millions of people would see who this person was. And I don't know of a single person that had a problem with this. Oh, that's a little bit too much. That's too much activism. Oh man, you're putting their face on TV. Technically, Chris Hansen and them, they could have called the police and had the police arrest the person without having a whole show and putting the person's face on a camera for millions of people to see. But there's no such thing as going too far to help kids, to save kids, to try to stop pedophiles from doing what they do, doing illegal stuff, right? What I'm trying to say is there are certain activities in which the ends justify the means in trying to stop it or prevent it or expose it. There are certain things that you just cannot do and then expect people to use some sort of parameter or rule or structured guideline as to what they will and won't do to you. There's certain things I know not to hop out this car and just go do to somebody. I can't go out and just mug somebody and then get mad if they shoot me. Well, you didn't have to go that far. You didn't have to shoot me. You could just push me away or call the police. You didn't have to shoot. There's certain things you don't do. Certain lines you don't cross. You don't put people's lives in danger. Like Jehovah's Witnesses do with the whole not taking blood thing and the whole going into just random neighborhoods and going into people's houses and countless different things that they do that they're putting people's families at risk. And they're causing people's families to die, not taking blood transfusion because they say so. Jehovah's Witnesses chose to put themselves in position where whatever it is people decide to do is what people decide to do. I'm not trying to police the people that's trying to stop deaths from occurring because of a cult. I'm not trying to put myself in between people who are trying to stop pedophilia from occurring because of a cult. This Chris Hansen thing, I like to call activism. I like to call it activism against pedophilia. And you got to understand, Watchtower's involved with all of that. They're involved with the harboring of pedophiles and also essentially being a death cult, causing people to die because of blood transfusion. They're Watchtower's worse than the pedophiles because Watchtower's doing more, causing people to die and harboring pedophiles. But another point I'd like to bring up about the pedophilia is how it could potentially be way worse than any of us are aware of. Chris Hansen, that show went off the air a long time ago. However, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but there are individual groups of people who have decided to pick up where Chris Hansen left off. So there are YouTube channels where people will do the same thing. They will pose as a child, and when the predator tries to pounce on the prey, essentially, they will meet that predator, whether it be a Walmart, whether it be Jack in the Box, McDonald's, wherever that predator decides, hey, I want to try to meet a kid, to have sex with the child. Well, these groups of people go out with camera and expose that person, and many times call the police. Well, if you guys look into this, which I think you should look into it, because if you guys do look into it, you will see that the pedophile problem is beyond anything that I ever imagined. Right? Just watching Chris Hansen. Right? There's more pedophiles, and it's worse than what I had even imagined it to be. My whole life growing up, I thought there might be one or two pedophiles in a certain neighborhood or somewhere where they're not allowed to be anywhere around a school or kids. I always thought that there's only so many of them. Is what I used to think. Well, you got to understand that all these individual YouTube channels that are popping up trying to stop pedophiles, each individual one of them are catching pedophiles into the 60s, into the 30s, they're catching so many pedophiles that when they catch one, sometimes they call him the wrong name, him or her, the wrong name, because they got 4 or 5 more they got to catch the same day. The pedophile problem is worse. If you have kids, you should probably watch some of these pedophile catchers on YouTube. Pay attention to some of the YouTube channels where they show this is number such and such, because they're trying to show you how bad this is, how many pedophiles there are. Why do I bring this up? Why do I bring up the point that the pedophile problem could be beyond anything we were aware of? It is beyond anything I knew about. I didn't know that each group of people that try to pursue them catch them into the 60s, limitless amounts of pedophiles. I didn't know it was that bad. I knew Chris Hansen would sometimes say they had to hurry up and get one pedophile out of the sting operation house because another one was pulling up. Right? How bad could this pedophile problem be with Jehovah's Witnesses? It could be astronomical. Now that I'm looking and I'm seeing that each one of these groups of activists are catching countless pedophiles in short periods of times. They're countless, and they're like stopping at nothing to try to pursue kids. Well, you got to understand that this Australian Royal Commission, this commission that looked into it, what they found, this is just what they found. What they found was ridiculous numbers of pedophiles among Jehovah's Witnesses that weren't even getting reported. They weren't even getting reported. So this was allowed to go unchecked. This was allowed to run rampant inside Jehovah's Witnesses for countless years. So the pedophile problem in Jehovah's Witnesses, where you have a religious group where pedophiles are aware that they can pursue children with little fear of police being involved or it even being reported. They can just hop from hall to hall and just try to molest kids however much they want. And that went on for how long? The numbers of pedophiles that would have flocked to Jehovah's Witnesses, the numbers of pedophiles that would have told other pedophiles that we can do our thing here, when you look at the numbers that all these other groups are catching, and these groups are catching people who are actually fearful of being caught. When these pedophiles are messaging what they think are kids on these websites and what have you, they're stating, hey, I could go to jail for this. I could do this could happen. I can get into a lot of trouble, right? They're carrying on their activities, understanding that they could be caught, understanding that this could be a setup. And they're still catching them in untold, unheard of numbers. Understand that Jehovah's Witnesses, this is a group where these pedophiles were not worried about cops being called at the worst. The only thing they had to worry about is the kid telling the parents and the parents telling the elders, and then not really going nowhere from there. You got to understand, every pedophile that became aware that Jehovah's Witnesses were the most docile, easy to manipulate and target and victimize people on earth, because they weren't even using the police, that all of them would have went there. All of them, because they're not worried about getting caught by the cops. All the pedophiles in the world would have gone to the Jehovah's Witnesses. There's nothing to have stopped it. So the number of pedophiles inside Jehovah's Witnesses would be astronomical. All you got to be in the organization to be able to take advantage of kids. It ain't like with the Catholic Church, and there were priests that were taking advantage of their position. It ain't like Catholic Church where a person had to study and go to college and years later become a priest. Jehovah's Witnesses, as soon as you go in, as soon as you get baptized, you could have ran rampant with being a pedophile, right? So follow my logic here. Website. Pedophiles could be caught on said website. Untold numbers of pedophiles go to it anyway to try to victimize kids. Even with the threat that the kid could tell on them, the parents could find out, or the whole thing could be a sting operation. They still flock to these websites. Okay? That's over here. Huge numbers of pedophiles, huge threat of them being caught. Now let's go over here. Jehovah's Witnesses. For years and years and years, it just went unchecked. They weren't worried about police. They weren't worried about anybody being told but elders. And then it just was depending on how those elders felt about that person as to whether or not they thought anything of it. The numbers over here with the cult that's letting it run rampant would be way worse than the numbers of people we saw Chris Hansen catching. The numbers of people that the pedophile activist groups, which I like all of them, that are on YouTube right now, the numbers of pedophiles that they're all catching, unbelievable, untold, unheard of numbers. The numbers inside Jehovah's Witnesses would be worse. Pure logic. If there is a website and in this website, all these pedophiles are able to somehow pursue kids and they know there's not going to be any police called. They know it's not a sting operation. There's really kids there that they can victimize. Once that becomes known, every pedophile on earth would be on that website. The website would have I don't know how many of them there are. I just know that they're way more than I ever imagined. So let's say millions of pedophiles would all flock to this website. Why would we be anywhere where we could get caught and be sent to jail and be exposed? Why would we risk it when here's this cult right here or this website right here where we can just pursue them freely? We can just go out in field service and sit with little kids at the in the car groups, which I've personally seen. We could be at the hall, and then right after the meeting, just go around and grab all the little kids and kiss them and hug them and touch them right there in front of everybody. I've seen this. After I woke up, I remember going to a Kingdom Hall just to see what they were teaching at that time. And after the meeting, because I'm awake and I'm aware that, hey, these people are capable of anything. Now that I'm awake, I'm watching, and yeah, you have the people, the perverts, who after the meeting hang out with the kids, and they're just grabbing them and hugging them and kissing them. And you got the main auditorium area where most of the adults are talking. Then you got the doors, and then you have the area where the bathroom is and the water fountains are and the coat room is. Yeah, that's where the pedophile or that's where those people would be hanging out with the kids, grabbing the kids over. Why would anybody do something like that? But these people are so, their minds are so out there focused on the end of the world in doomsday that they're not even watching the pervert right there with their kids. Come on now. Once this becomes known, every pedo in the world is going to be a Jehovah's Witness. So when we talk about activism, we have to find out, what is this activism against? Because if this activism is against pedophiles, I've never, show me where I'm wrong, but I have never personally watched any of these YouTube videos where they expose the pedophiles, where the person says, oh no, you shouldn't do that. That person was shopping at Walmart and looking for kids. You just interrupted their shopping at Walmart. Or if they call them at a Jack in the Box. Well, this person should have the right to enjoy going to Jack in the Box. You interrupted them at Jack in the Box with cameras and being loud, and you startled them. You scared them. I've never heard this. I've never heard or seen in the comment section. You guys can look yourself. I've never seen in the comment section where somebody looks at the activism against pedophiles and said that activism is too much. I've never seen too much. I'm telling you, and I've seen them get exposed in public at the store. In public at the store, where people are walking by and they're hearing this stuff. And I've seen a guy at the U-Scan on one of these videos, the activist exposes him in front of the whole store and makes him apologize in front of the whole store for being a pedophile and going there and trying to do stuff to kids. Everybody saw it, embarrassed in front of everybody, and nobody thinks that's too much. Nobody thinks that's extreme activism. Shouldn't do that. Nobody. Well, when we're dealing with Jehovah's Witnesses, we're dealing with an organization of untold pedophiles. This was allowed to run rampant. Untold, unheard of numbers of pedophiles would be there. Australian Royal Commission found ridiculous numbers of unreported pedophiles. That's just what they found. That's not what is actually there in all these congregations. Watchtower had a database where it had to have been so bad that they were paying money to not hand over the database of pedophiles. We're talking about a cult that is a pedophile cult and a death cult. They will have and a destroying people's lives and destroying people's families cult. They destroy people's lives. There's people that don't have a real way of sustaining themselves because they were told the end of the world was coming. They didn't need to go to college. They didn't need to prepare themselves. They destroy people's families. There's people who immediate family they have not heard of in so long they don't even have their phone numbers. Death cult, there are so many people that have died either on the operating table from not having a blood transfusion, or they didn't have the transfusion and because of complications, they died later, which they wouldn't have if they'd have had it. And you have the number of pedophiles. You guys do your own investigation on that. Number of pedophiles through the roof. So comment down below. Let me know what you think. I don't think there's a such thing as a activism against Jehovah's Witnesses. That's too much. You guys comment down below. 937-789-4029. X-Wall Kill Bethelite signing out.